And there's a little bit more I want to talk about here, and it's something I didn't even think I'd ever need to talk about, but I guess we've reached this point in the internet where this is necessary.
I don't even know. Is he really going to make the points that I'm making? Is that possible?
Being attacked on Twitter, just fucking dogpiled about my ignoring the situation and refusing to speak on it, being too much of a coward to...
Oh, see, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. These people don't want to talk about this. And I'm not saying that that is any indicator or suspicious activity or whatever else, but at the same time, it's very interesting. Do they not want you to know that this content creation space is extremely toxic and bad? Do they not want regulators to get involved? Because let's be very clear, no matter how charitable Charlie is, no matter how charitable Tectone is, they're in it for the money. And if they're not in it for the money, they're in it for something else, a power trip or something worse, Dr. Disrespect. Potentially Chris, potentially Cody. It speaks for itself.
Talk about all this, which is crazy to me.
Why is it crazy, Charlie? Why is it crazy? You have no choice. You have to talk about this. Otherwise, you're going to look guilty.
And then people saying like, "Oh, where was the same energy for or where was the same energy that you had for Dr. Disrespect here?" And
it's true. It's a valid criticism. You do one, you do all.
Crazy.
Now, I feel the same way. You know, I'm like, this is tireless. Like, I mean, I have to continue to cover these things. I tried to cover Cody Co, and I did it under a Dr. Disrespect video. So I was like, okay, well, that kills two birds with one stone. And I try to do this the same way, but obviously I'm doing this reaction to two birds with one stone about content creation and this. So I'm trying to lump these in together to make other points, not just the points that are made in these specific videos or reactions. But this is an interesting development because I think this is a very important topic to talk about as well.
See that I even have to talk about this. So last night during stream, this story was still breaking. Things were still coming out about this story. And I talked about it on stream last night. The same day, all of these pieces of evidence were surfacing. I talked about it immediately. Once I became aware of what the evidence was out there and what the claims were and what was going on, I was talking about it right away. And I even posted a video that is highly edited and short, nice and concise, about the whole bare bones of the situation and my thoughts on it for the second channel, so that way even if you have the biggest brain rot and can't focus on a video for long, you can still finish that whole video and see just how bad this whole Ava Tyson situation is. So
we can see how bad it is, but we can also see that content creation is just as bad in many ways because of how big it is, and it's only going to get worse because people want to make not some of the money, all of the money. No matter how much they're giving away to chat or anybody else, no matter how charitable somebody is, does not directly relate to how good of a person they are. It just doesn't. I would even say that in some cases, it shows that they may be more guilty because they have something to feel sorry for or apologize for or to try to give back, which is a great thing. Don't get me wrong. I'd rather have that attitude than not. But at the same time, it doesn't make you a good person.
So I talked about it immediately, but Twitter didn't see that video.
And people don't like Twitter. People don't like Twitter. Twitter says a lot of shit. Twitter's got a lot of shit going on there over there. And obviously a lot of misinformation. And what's very interesting is obviously these content creators react to these things and they consider that that is fact. And it may be fact to them, but it's no different than Twitter. Okay. The only difference is between Twitter and a content creator's channel is that the content creators get to dictate their conversation. Twitter is like on-ban chat. And God knows every content creator hates on-ban chat.
And the ones that did wrote it off as, oh, he's only going to put this on his second channel because he's afraid to put it on his main channel.
I mean, valid criticism. I think that's valid. I really do.
He didn't do that for Dr. Disrespect. He was like that with...
Yep, very good. Listen, you got to always be on top of this. You got to always think ahead like this. Come on, Charlie. You can do better.
Dr. Disrespect.
I mean, it's not you. It's probably your editors, but you direct them, I'm sure. Or maybe not. Maybe it's like a super PAC and you don't even talk to them.
You are provably wrong. All you had to do was activate a few fucking neurons in...
No, see, this is this whole dumb thing. And you know, he is part of Starforge. He is part of the OTK network, I think. And so all these people are all clumped together and completely and utterly try to de-intelligize these people and say, all you got to do is just, you know, trigger some neurons
in your noodle. Check my Dr. Disrespect video. I posted it at, I think it was 9 p.m. on June 22nd. June 22nd is when my Dr. Disrespect video went up. The allegation against Dr. Disrespect was on June 21st. So what happened is, that allegation came out. I talked about it on stream. Dr. Disrespect made a statement as well the same day that I talked about on stream. Then
I hope you have crossed your T's and dotted your I's. I hope the timeline works, Charlie, because if not, you're about to get reamed.
Following day, almost a full 24 hours later, I made the video talking about it. And in this situation, it is the exact same timeline. I was talking about it as everything was unfolding.
Yep.
I even had a video go up on the second channel going over everything that was coming out. And now I'm making the full video about it 24 hours later. It's the exact same speed and same energy as the Dr. Disrespect situation. And the main person who started this lightning rod of accusations about me ducking it and refusing to address it
is who?
Is fucking Sneeko of all people.
Well, you know, Sneeko's been under controversy with Dr. Disrespect because I think he was trying to, like, defend him. And then he went after Pokimane, I think it was, or something. He's been after Pokimane for a while. I don't know who Sneeko is, right? But obviously they have a beef with each other. This whole online personality disorder stuff that's going on.
Yo, look out. Moist Critical is not going to go talk about the Kris situation because he wants to have the Mr. Beast collab. Bro, you're going to...
Which implies that maybe Moist is one of the greatest people on the internet. Which somebody accused him of recently. I don't know. I find that interesting.
Talk about every other trending situation, Dr. Disrespect, Sneeko.
There you go. Go ahead. He even talked about Sneeko. Valid.
Anything that goes viral goes on your main channel.
Yep. And this is viral. This is about as viral can get, with Mr. Beast being the top entertainer, you know, when PewDiePie stepped down, and then there's, I think, some other people that are close, but not near the level of Mr. Beast.
Kris, the associate of the biggest YouTube channel in the world, you do a 4-minute clip on your second channel. Stop coping and be a journalist if you're going to be a journalist, or just say that you want to have the collab. Stop lying.
I think that's fair. What's your response, Charlie?
Jesus Christ, the fucking drool there is going to drive me insane. I need to go put...
Is his name Charlie? Or I think his name is Charlie, right? Or is it Chris? Is it Chris? No, it's
on the fucking bathrobe here and give him PTSD or something. What do you mean? It is a 4-minute clip because I did that so people like you who don't pay attention long enough...
Well, I think you can use this as a nice, you know, compromise or a nice deflection, but I think it has some merits.
Could see my take on it and also get the bare bones information of what makes it so horrible. That's the reason it's a 4-minute...
Well, so that's the new precedent you're setting for all your new videos going forward? Is this 4-minute clip video?
Clip on the second channel. It was never going to be the only video I made talking about it. I was always going to make a full breakdown of this because it's bad. It's a horrible situation. So yes, you're right. I do talk about like big trending bad shit like Dr. Disrespect or like Cody Ko most recently.
Yep.
I don't know why people thought I wouldn't talk about this. I knew Cody Ko far more than I knew Ava Tyson. I talked to Cody Ko at length one time on his podcast and then one other time in DMs. Ava Tyson, I met 1.5 times. I first met them after a poker game with Mr. Beast. They showed up right at the end, right before I left. And then at the most recent Mr. Beast video, also right when I got out, Ava Tyson showed up and I talked to them for a couple of minutes. But I never knew Ava Tyson very well. Cody Ko I did, and I still wasn't afraid to talk about how awful his shit was. So I've never been someone to fucking shy away from a bad situation like this just because I know or am familiar with the person that it's about. So I don't know why people thought that that would be the case here. And also, for the millionth fucking time, I'm not a journalist. I'm like the Z-tier stupid journalist, like this actual lame...
Right, and this is a nice little way to deny or to protect in the future. You can be whatever pseudo journalist you want, Charlie. Moist Critical, okay? But when push comes to shove and you're held accountable for your actions and for your inactions, yeah. Again, always try to deflect responsibility. I don't know. It says a lot.
Man, fucking CTE riddled idiot that reports on stories, and I talk about them usually to make jokes about them. In rare cases, and recently it's been very common, there's serious stories that I am very passionate about delivering and talking about how shitty they are.
Right. Okay.
So, like, in a situation like this, yeah, this isn't really a story that I joke a lot about because it is serious. When there is a victim who is a child here, that's something to take seriously. But I'm not a fucking journalist. Most of the shit I talk about is the most inconsequential mumbo-jumbo ever, like aliens in warp drives, or that recent story about how scientists discovered hippos can fly because they get airborne for a split second, literally like 1/2 of a frame. They're able to get all 4 little legs off the ground. And I talk about those stories and joke about them. It's just talking about shit to joke about it for the most part, except in cases like this, where it is a serious story that I talk about. Now, Sneeko, I hope you're ready for the cold water here, because I'm going to be brutally honest with you. When this story broke, I thought for sure I would have actually bet money that you would have been some kind of contrarian talking about how this is actually not a big deal and everyone who's...
Right, and he did it for Dr. Disrespect. Now he's pushing back on Sneeko.
Pretending to be outraged about it is actually just a hypocrite. Because you have been on this crusade for a while now about not agreeing with the age of consent. So I really thought you'd be talking about how...
Okay, so the age of consent, and I think this is Andrew Tate's take as well, and I don't know if that's correct or if it's evolved from this, but listen, historically speaking, and this is only specific to the United States, it's not been that long that our lifespans are, you know, we're increasing to the point where now we live until 70, 80 years old. There was a time when, yes, these kind of things happened a lot more frequently. Younger people were getting married, were having relations. And so this is a shift that's very recent. And in some cultures, some communities, it's no different. And so having this conversation isn't bad.
Oh, this is just like Dr. Disrespect, who you ran hard defense for with this.
Right, that they were 17. And there is a distinction here. There is a difference here. And I already made the video on Dr. Disrespect. I think he can come back. I really do. Listen, the world is crazy. Okay, content creators are absolutely unhinged. Do I think someone like Dr. Disrespect can come back and have a platform? 100%. I don't like to say it, but it's the reality that we live in. Like it or not.
This imaginary 17-year-old you cooked up in your head based off of one fake email from an anonymous source. And I thought you would be going that angle again, saying like, oh, well, that 13-year-old was probably very mature.
Age of consent should be maturity. It's not even 18.
And well, there's been many research. There's been many research as to why that is not the case.
In most states. Why do you even believe
that is true? There are multiple states that have age of consent at certain ages. But there are also caveats to those states as well.
that? It's because in Hollywood, it's 18, so that gets pushed everywhere. Most places, 16. And if you question that, then they call you a pedo. I believe the age of consent is the age of maturity. It should be called the age of marriage. Age of consent implies...
It used to be the age of marriage in many ways. And it still is used in many states where you can marry somebody at the age of 14. And then all those things are, you know, all the pedophilia, all the monikers are not even applicable. I mean, you may still be called that. But as far as legal goes, you're legally able to in some states still.
You're going to have out of wedlock. I think it's better that people get married at 16, 17 than to have a bunch of premarital until they're 30.
And this is the Andrew Tate mentality. Yeah, it's very similar.
And they're washed up and then they get jaded and they're on birth control and they have dried up eggs.
I think this is a conversation that should be happening, and there needs to be an education on all sides. I don't disagree entirely with what Sneeko is saying, because this is what was the precedent for a very long time. And only recently have we changed it. And there's a reason why. There's a lot of science. There's a lot of data that tries to protect young kids from being exploited and manipulated and coerced, which is why this young kid, 12, 13 years old, may not know that they were groomed, may not know all these things. And I have to, you know, say unequivocally, I know this to be true. 100%.
That's better for society.
He's so pseudo-intellectual that he actually argues for things that defend pedophilia. That's fucking ridiculous. And when challenged on this, it's even worse. So there's an older clip now, it's quite a few months old, where XQC and Destiny actually challenge him on this right to his face, and holy shit, it's bad.
You see how you want to answer the question? You see how he's going to yap and not answer the question? I'm going to ask the same thing when you're done. Go ahead.
I just answered the question. I just told you.
What was the age?
I just told you at a developed age.
Sneeko thinks you should be able to fuck 9-year-olds. That's what Sneeko thinks, and he won't answer that question honestly. Or he's going to have to give a different answer.
There's limits here, right? Obviously. I think I even remember this being a big deal.
In which case, he's updated his morality. He's updated his views, and that's really uncomfortable for him. You don't have an answer to any of this shit, bro. Go back to fucking that fucking corner in London where you're getting roasted by year 1 debaters on fucking Christianity. This is retarded. I don't know what the fuck you're doing in here.
Okay, so you can leave the call. I wanted to go talk about this word.
I don't want to leave the call. I like hanging out here. I've talked to a lot of pedophiles in the past, so.
Okay.
Okay, Sneeko, I'm actually curious now. What do you think the age of development is?
I just told you. It depends on where you are. It depends on the world.
Then at what stage?
That is true, though. Sneeko's not wrong. In many Muslim countries, it's not unheard of, and I know this is probably why they get, why the religion gets a bad take. It's not that uncommon for people that are super young to marry and to have relations, and it's not even uncommon for a young person to marry someone that's a little bit older. It's culturally normal. All of these psychology, all of the science aside, like, I'm not here advocating for it. I'm just stating what's fact, what is true. Sneeko is not wrong in many ways. And the pushback is fair. The pushback is westernized, propagandized, talking points. And it's okay, because that's what happens in this country. We villainize. We're so good at villainizing. And yet when we're trying to be held accountable, God forbid, we try to be held accountable for our own actions, for our own failures. But we like to villainize everybody else. We don't like to look inside ourselves and know that we have so many flaws as well. Doesn't mean we can't talk about it. Doesn't mean we can't, argue or have an opinion. We can do that, okay? But if it's just going to be always vitriolic and not understand someone's actual point and try to just make it, that they're trying to, like, 9-year-olds, like this kind of stuff, like, that is a little bit of a stretch, even though technically Sneeko has not created an answer that would, present a better alternative, which is why we have the alternative that we do in some states or in most states.
Stage do you think somebody's developed in it? What stage of development? Because there's a lot of stages of development.
It varies.
It varies. It varies on what?
I think it varies on the age.
It varies on the age?
Yeah, it does not vary on the age. This is something that I can unequivocally say. I know I talked about cultures in Muslim countries and stuff like that, where you can have arranged marriages and stuff like that. But there is never an age, before, in my opinion, it's like 25. 30, I don't know. It is different. Like, age of maturity is different for different people. The complexity and understanding of what, life consequences are, I think happens at a certain point. Could it happen for one individual sooner than other people? Yes. But we're talking like, and this is literally, and this is the point they're trying to make, XQC and Destiny. They're trying to say that if you have that mentality, then you would basically allow yourself to sleep with somebody that you think is mentally mature, even though they could be 10, 11, 12, 13. That's what they're implying. And technically, I'm not going to lie, it's not an incorrect conclusion to make.
Age.
It depends on where you are.
You need to have set ages for that. There are stages of development. As a child, an adolescent,
you can hear him start to snivel in the background there as he's sucking up snot from his nose, getting cooked, and his brain is fucking overheating, malfunctioning, trying to formulate some kind of response to the easiest question in the world about what he thinks the age of consent should be. He keeps talking about the age of development and then can't even put a number on it. So everyone, please feel free to ask Sneeko what he thinks the age of consent should be if you want to see a human being fucking glitch out and...
Yeah, and I think this is a fair criticism. I'm not sure if it's, a good counterpoint to what was, the criticism of Charlie, more critical per se. but it's what is being done in the content creation space. You know, you throw shade at me, I throw shade back at you, and this goes back and forth, and none of us potentially say that we're wrong, and we move on with our lives, you know, even though in this case, I do think Sneako's wrong because there has to be a definitive age. Whether or not what Sneako is saying has some validity, which if it does, you'll never be able to identify who's mature enough or not. That's why there's laws. That's why there's a standard set practice, you know, so that it's just established. This is what it is. Don't try to fight it because you're going to be wrong most of the time and you're going to pay for it big time.
Malfunction like an Oblivion NPC. Can't answer the most basic question in the world. That is concerning. You realize how deranged that makes you look, Sneako? That makes you look like an actual danger to society, that you don't agree with the age of consent and try and argue around it. That's what every pedophile ever that Chris Hansen talked to would do. Like, you're fucking...
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think it's a fair point. Absolutely. Fine. That's fair. Yep.
Weirdo. So for you of all people, this fucking putrid vermin, this absolute slimy worm, to have the gall...
Well, I think, again, this is just Charlie trying to diminish everything that Sneako said, and that's just not the reality. You know? You can't do that definitively. You have to always defend on the merits of a conversation or a debate. You cannot just deduce somebody is unqualified or not intelligent or doesn't have a point just because, you know, they are XYZ. And if we do that, then we are doomed, because that's our justice system says you are guilty until proven, you are innocent until proven guilty. You go to court, you're convicted, you go do your time, you come out, you're supposed to be free of your sins. We know that's not the case in America. And that's what we're saying here too. We're saying that just because Sneako had a bad take and there's been no evidence or allegations against him as far as any kind of, you know, children or whatever else, and, you know, give it enough time, who knows. But until then, you know, there has been no. And just because he has that bad take doesn't mean he's not, you know, he doesn't have the right to have an actual alternative take that may actually have some validity, like the one criticizing Moist Critical, Charlie. Come on. Again, not actually accepting fault in the fact that he did not cover this on his main channel. And maybe it's because he did want to have this collaboration with Mr. Beast, and he has been accused of being greedy, even though he gives away to charity and to people, which does not indicate if someone is good or not.
To say that I only care about the Mr. Beast collab, thus this whole...
I mean, it's possible.
Whole story is just relegated to, you'd never use that word. That word's too big for you.
Okay, here we go. Diminishes intelligence. The OTK network is extremely good at this, by the way.
This whole story is just put on his second channel.
And it's very, very profitable and popular.
Where no one's going to see it.
If you think I'm not thinking about this kind of stuff, I do. I do think about it.
Because it's safer that way, so he can keep the Mr. Beast collab alive. He's afraid, he's a coward for it. He has no problem abandoning.
I don't know if he's going that far, but this is the hyperbole that basically diminishes the actual initial talking point so that his followers, his supporters will just basically disregard anything that Sneako said. Go overboard. Go over it. Hasbin Gold does this all the time. They go over it. They go to the fence and then they go over it. And then not only that, they'll basically jump back over just to make a point to go back over it. And then they'll do it again and they'll go over it again just to make it so outlandishly impossible that there's no way that that's their train of thought. When in reality, it's possible.
Abandoning his morals and defending blatant pedophilia, bro.
I mean, listen, if you're in content creation space and you have a knack for vulgarity and inappropriate, you know, conversations, whether it's innuendos for sex or whatever else, which we've already covered that on this channel for other content creators, I would suggest, yeah, you may have a propensity to defend and be biased in certain situations. Yeah, maybe, because I don't think you hold yourself accountable. I don't think many people do in this space, period.
brushing it under the rug as long as it means it keeps the Mr. Beast collab alive.
That's possible.
For you to make insinuations like that and even claim...
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty scummy. It's pretty bad. And you have to, and then someone like Charlie has to address it. And in that regard, I can understand him being upset. But at the same time, if you're doing something different than you've done previously, even though you've just showed the timeline, I don't know how accurate that timeline is. I'm not going to go back and look and see if that's accurate or not. But it is a defense, and therefore, you know, or it is a motive or an alibi, you know, so I have to give Charlie credit here. And if, you know, if all, you know, and if that checks out, then yeah, Sneeko was just saying things just to say things. And probably it's what Sneeko does best. And that's not good either.
Games like that is fucking unhinged, considering you make actual pedophile defense arguments constantly.
Okay, yes, but we've already established this, first of all. Culturally, it's not that abnormal. And yes, they're looked down upon in the Western cultures for doing it. But Sneeko's not wrong. And I don't know if Sneeko's American. And other cultures have different perspectives of this, whether we like it in America or not.
And you have publicly put on the clown makeup and worn white knight armor complete with the shield to defend Dr. Disrespect when he himself publicly admitted to messaging a minor inappropriately. It's fucking insanity. It makes me want to spit that I even have to talk about this, but it became such a huge fiery issue on...
Interesting. This is almost an acknowledgement like he didn't want to talk about it. And maybe he wouldn't have had this conversation. Maybe he wouldn't have.
Twitter about me specifically, that I felt the need to have to include this in this video, which should have been entirely focused on everything Ava Tyson...
You could have. And you could have made a separate video on that. I think so. I'm not sure, though.
...has done and why it is so shitty. But now I've had to dedicate a sizable chunk to talking about these claims against me, about how I'm not going to talk about it and was not going to talk about it until pressure from Twitter forced me to.
Well, that does not look good. And I know this was circulating a while ago. So, and there was enough evidence out there, even I think to the extent that he covered it with Dr. Disrespect. And like he showed the timeline about Dr. Disrespect and he waited until Dr. Disrespect actually wrote the message. But let's be very clear. There was enough evidence out there previously. And then, okay, so there was this, you know, acknowledgement that it could have been fake and this and that. But it's kind of convenient. I think if you were to look at Charlie's previous videos, I think Sneeko probably has a point. There may be something there. As with all of these things, there could be no actual, like, way to figure this out factually, but, you know, if you look between the lines, it's pretty suspicious.
Even though I had talked about it as it was developing and even mentioned on stream, I was going to make a video on it. So to bring it all back to what should actually be the focus, the Ava Tyson situation and how horrible it is, I believe that it is an unforgivable thing that has been done.
Okay.
Talking to minors inappropriately is horrible. And
what about you, Charlie, in your content creation space? If I watch your stream tonight, okay, I guarantee you I'm going to find some inappropriate shit that should not be talked about in front of minors. And then I'm going to say, well, was your channel blocked behind a mature rating? Was it mature rated audiences only? And then you also accept the fact that you know that there's people on there that are children that are going to basically find a way to do that. Is that your fault? Is that your responsibility? Of course not. Plausible deniability. I get it. But at the same time, you having this philosophy, you feeling this way, which we all do, and not holding yourself accountable at every opportunity where you can basically make a difference, then yeah, that's questionable. Then that's hypocritical, in my opinion. Doesn't mean that you're not right in this situation. Of course you are. But at the same time, once you look at your own demeanor, once you look at your own content and start analyzing it through the point of view that you want or criticize others from, I think it may be a very good process for all of us, you know, including you.
And having this kind of continued relationship with a minor where you're sharing edgy and
content creators have continued relationships with their audience for years, every day, sometimes, because some content creators do not know how to take a break.
Appropriate jokes back and forth, and being in group chats and voice chats with children and saying gross things around them is...
We play video games and we interact with, you know, not on purpose, again, indirectly. It happens. And we say some vulgar shit there as well. We've all been guilty of that. Xbox Live days, you know. We were younger then, but still, we're all guilty of it. We all have some culpability here.
So weird that it is not okay under any situation. It's disgusting behavior. And publicly supporting an artist who draws child porn, and even owning art from that artist and talking about art like that, and the revenge porn, all of it is very fucking bad. It's horrible. I'm not pulling any punches here on my feelings around it. So yes, I wanted to talk about this, and that's really about it. See ya.
That's very good overall. And I do stand by what I said. I do think that content creation is equally as culpable as someone like Ava Kris, as someone like Cody Ko, as someone like Dr. Disrespect. Obviously, Dr. Disrespect used his actual platform to chat with somebody instead of like Twitter or DMs or social media, or Cody Ko like meeting up with a person in a party or whatever else. Okay, but it's all the same fucking difference. It's just one is indirect, one is direct, one is, you know, plausible, deniable, one is more, you know, accountable. And that's where we're at. And I really do think that a shift needs to happen. If the United States government is getting involved finally again, and we're going to pass some more legislation for child protection, I think that's a good thing. I think if we need these companies, who make a lot of money, by the way, to basically self-regulate their environments to some degree, they need to look into their environments and see what's going on, which means there's going to be crackdown on content. And that's okay. And these people have already made their money. Charlie's already made his money. Asmongold already made his money. Tectone's already made their money. They've benefited from the system, just like all the people that came before it that benefited when YouTube allowed you to basically exploit and potentially have pedophilia rings in their chats. They benefited from that as well by getting hundreds of millions of views. And if it isn't YouTube, if it isn't Twitter, if it isn't TikTok, it was Craigslist or Yahoo Messenger. When is it going to stop? When are we going to have the right conversations? Clearly not right now, but hopefully this goes one step closer. My name is Suzuki. If you like this content, like, subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.